Every single day, 4 people. Not just on weekdays, not just during hard times. Every day, weekends, holidays, even on quiet, ordinary afternoons. In South Korea, 4 young people take their own lives every single day. That's over 400 a year. And right now, it's at the highest level recorded in 13 years. But today, I want to ask a question that's even more uncomfortable than that number. We've always talked about this problem the same way. Young people are struggling. Mental health is the issue. We need more counseling. But wait, is the problem really the young people? Or is there something bigger that's been making them this way? Let's start with the numbers. South Korea has held the #1 spot for suicide rate among OECD nations for 20 consecutive years. 20 years is a generation, an entire generation, and not once has another country taken that ranking. From teenagers to people in their 40s, the #1 cause of death is not cancer. It's not accidents. It's suicide. And here's what makes it worse. After COVID, the youth suicide rate began climbing sharply. And it's still climbing. Every year, new records. At some point, we have to stop asking the same question. Not, why are young people struggling? But why is this happening specifically in Korea? Unemployment exists in other countries. Competition exists in other countries. Young people living alone exists in other countries. So why is it only Korean youth facing this at this scale? I want to suggest something uncomfortable. South Korea's education system is not designed to develop human beings. It's designed to produce parts. Think about it. Korean children learn from elementary school. You have to get into a good university, because that's the only way to get a good job. And you need a good job to get married. And you need to be married to buy a home. If you're American, this might sound a little familiar. The pressure to have the right degree, the right salary, the right timeline. But in Korea, this isn't background noise. It's the entire operating system. Children are never given time to ask, what do I actually enjoy? What am I naturally good at? Who do I want to become? Instead, they're placed in a single file line and trained from age 6 not to fall behind. And when they finally reach adulthood, they say things like, I don't know what I want. I just did what I was told. Now I don't know what to do. Imagine being 22 years old and asking yourself who you are for the very first time. Is that personal weakness? Or is that what happens when a system never gave you the space to find out? At the end of that education conveyor belt, there's supposed to be a job. But this game was never fair to begin with. Right now, nearly 1.6 million young Koreans are completely outside the job market. Not looking, not training, just out. 1.6 million people. Is that a personal motivation problem? And even if you make it into the workforce, the anxiety doesn't stop. Don't let go of this job, the market's brutal. AI is replacing people. Will I even have this position in 5 years? Here's the thing. Both the people who got jobs and the people who didn't, they're both terrified. And that fear turns into comparison. You open Instagram or YouTube, you see people your age who seem to be thriving. And the voice starts. Why am I not further along? What's wrong with me? That voice repeated enough times destroys self-worth. And when self-worth collapses, hopelessness moves in. And when hopelessness accumulates, the system demands relentless competition. But when someone fails, the system points entirely at the individual. You just didn't try hard enough. You made bad choices. Does that sound familiar? It should, because it's not just a Korean problem. It's the logic of a system that uses people up and then steps back. Now let's talk about where young Koreans live. 1 in 3 single-person households in Korea is a young person. That number has nearly doubled in the past 20 years. Living alone isn't inherently bad. But here's the key question. Is it a choice or is it the only option left? Because the chain looks like this. Can't find stable work. Can't afford to get married. Can't afford a home. End up alone in a small room. Watching the news alone. Growing more anxious alone. Blaming yourself alone. And nobody notices. Family is far away or doesn't understand. Friends are just as overwhelmed. The government isn't looking. Experts put it plainly. Young people who are locked out of employment and living alone are at serious risk of complete social isolation. When you're isolated, you stop receiving signals that you matter, that you're needed, that someone would notice if you were gone. When those signals disappear, we already know what can happen. A home is supposed to be where you recover. For too many Korean young people right now, it's where they fall apart, alone. By now, you might be thinking, okay, so what do we actually do about this? I asked that same question. More counselors? Bigger budgets? More awareness campaigns? Let me tell you about Japan for a second. Japan faced something similar. In 2003, over 34,000 people died by suicide in a single year. The country treated it as a national emergency. In 2006, they passed the Basic Act on Suicide Prevention. Every local government was required to create its own customized plan. 24-hour crisis lines opened across the country. Schools and workplaces introduced gatekeeper training, teaching people to recognize warning signs early and connect someone to help before it's too late. The result? A 38% reduction in suicide rates over the next 20 years. Now, South Korea? Korea's annual budget for suicide prevention is approximately 1/10 of Japan's. Korea passed its own prevention law in 2011, but experts say the real-world impact has been minimal. Here's where I want to stop. Before we talk about budgets and policies, I think we need to ask something more fundamental. For decades, society has defined this problem like this. Mentally fragile individuals make the extreme choice to end their lives. So the solutions follow that logic. Get therapy, take medication, build resilience. But today, I want to offer a different definition. Society is consuming young people like disposable parts. And when those parts break down, society doesn't repair them, doesn't replace them. It just throws them away. If that definition is accurate, the solutions need to look completely different. Not more counseling, but structural change. Not build mental toughness, but fix the system. Not personal responsibility, but social accountability. So here's what I'm asking you. South Korea's youth suicide crisis. Is this a personal failure? Or is it a systems failure? And if it's a systems failure, who has been keeping that system running? I'm not going to give you an answer. How you receive that question, and what you do with it, that belongs to you. Leave a comment. Personal problem or systems problem? Even just those two words. Because that comment multiplied by thousands of viewers becomes a small but real piece of data about how this society actually thinks. And maybe that's where change begins.